Packing standards and pricing for animal products. Here are some examples of typical packing options for eggs and typical pricing. Packaging is expensive. Reuse of cartons and cases is allowed as long as they're clean. The required information on cartons can be pre-printed or handwritten or use stick-on labels. Custom pre-printing of cartons requires really large bulk orders, so be aware if you go that route, you need a lot of storage space. Here's a packaging cost comparison based on 15 dozen eggs. You might think that the 1 dozen cartons would be cheaper because they're cheaper per item. However, you save money by using the 15 dozen egg case, and that only takes 1 label per case. So you save over $3 per 15 dozen, and you make money on eggs on the margins. So that kind of savings is important. Labeling, there are a bunch of requirements. You must have the statement of contents, for example, 15 dozen eggs. You must have the size, 1 size per container according to weight standards. So you can't mix jumbos and mediums in the same box, for instance. Your grades, AA, A, or B, according to grading standards. Your name and address, and your business name and address are fine if you have those. The statement, perishable, keep refrigerated, and 2 dates, the pack date and the sell by or use by date. The pack date has to be in Julian format, which means days of the year numbered 1 to 365, or 366 if a leap year. And then the sell by or use by date is 30 days out from that in the more typical day and month format. So here's a table to help you toggle between the Julian date format and the day and month. It's rather difficult because not all months have the same number of days. So having a table like this is really helpful. And you can access that in the Selling Minnesota Shell Eggs fact sheet. Moving on to meat and poultry, the packaging and labeling of these items is done under inspection at the processing plant. The most important packaging consideration for you, the farmer, is that all packages must bear a mark of inspection, either USDA or Minnesota Equal To. And here are examples of what those marks look like at the different types of plants. Check your packages to make sure they are marked before you leave the processing plant, because mistakes can happen. And if the meat is still at the plant, it can be corrected. If you take it away, then you're out of luck. What about other kinds of labeling? Fat content labeling is not required for local meat and poultry sold to schools. The school might need to do a cooking test to determine fat percentage. And nutrition labeling is not required for products that are listed in the USDA Food and Nutrition Service Food Buying Guide, which would be most cuts that farmers would be selling. Ask the school about their preferences for packaging ahead of time and then work with your butcher. For example, schools may prefer ground meat in larger packages, 5 or 10 pounds. Uniformity of cuts is really helpful for schools because they need to cook all the pieces at the same time and same temperature. Schools may want to buy specialty items like patties or hot dogs or deboned poultry products, but butchers do charge extra money for these processes, so make sure you set your price accordingly. Also important to know, a school protein serving is 2 ounces of cooked meat, so that means more items from the same amount of meat than if you got the typical restaurant sizes of 1/4 or 1/3 pound. And that could mean an even higher butcher charge. So here's a comparison between ground meat packaged as 5-pound packages or as 2.5 ounce patties. And you'll see that the grinding charge is the same, but the patties, there's an extra pattying charge and an extra vacuum packaging charge. And so your total processing cost for the patties is $152 higher in this example per 100 pounds of ground beef. So just make sure that you are covering those costs when you set your price for the schools. And that is the end of this module. Thank you.